Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Legacy Leaders. Scott McMean's here today, joined by Nataly Mualem from Mualem Firm. She's a lawyer. Let's just put it out there. She's a lawyer. Pretty good one, by the way. A lot of different things that she does in her law firm, but I'm going to let her introduce herself so she can tell you all the great things that she does. And then we're going to talk about what it's like to build a law firm. Like, how easy is that? I'm assuming it's not going to be easy, but she did it and she made it look easy. Easy. So, without further ado, Nataly, the microphone and camera are turned over to you. Introduce yourself and tell us your story.
Thank you, Scott. As you said, my name is Nataly. I am an immigration attorney. I've been involved with immigration for about 10 years now. It really started with some volunteer experience at a nonprofit here in Cleveland, and basically, I got to learn a little bit about family immigration. When I went to law school, it was, always on the back burner that I wanted to do something related to immigration. I wasn't sure it was going to be my primary career. I thought about, maybe some volunteer work or just getting my feet wet a little bit. But luck would have it, when I graduated, I was offered a position that was business and employment law for the most part. I basically represented a lot of charter schools in Ohio, but they also had an immigration law practice. So that slowly, became a bigger and bigger part of my work. And then I went off and I actually worked for a firm that was primarily specialized in H-2B visas. And for those that don't know, H-2B is a type of visa program that, helps companies bring temporary workers. It's used a lot by landscaping, by construction, hospitality, and it's to fill seasonal gaps. So there, I really gained a lot of experience with H-2Bs. We were a high volume firm and I was the H2B department head. So I touched every case that went through. Really got to learn all about the nuances of the program, got to learn all about the possible strategies that you can do. And with that information, then I decided to go off and build my own firm. The Mualem Firm. We're based in Cleveland, but we are national in that we have clients in many different states, because, obviously immigration is federal law. So what applies to us here in Cleveland would be the same as somebody in California. So we do represent clients all over. And because of the visa program being an international program, we also have offices outside of the United States to help with things like worker recruiting and logistics and things like that. And then within the United States, and actually I have one employee in Canada, we do the visa processing and the strategy, within here. And then we find workers outside of the United States and get them ready and teed up so that they can start working with companies that really have that demand.
This is very involved, right? There's more to it than just, oh, you're a lawyer in Cleveland and you help people get their visas, right? There's a lot to it. And I don't want to minimize it. So, but I also don't want to go down a rabbit hole if it's not going to be helpful. But Nataly, I see this as you have a business that you're running that I wouldn't say specialized, but you have a very good expertise in helping companies and people find each other and then facilitate them coming over so they can work here in the United States with temporary visas. Pretty much summarize that. Okay, that's good. The challenge I see that you have, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you're trying to do this from Cleveland, but you might have a client somewhere else in the United States. So logistically, how do you pull this off? What's the biggest issue with, you have an office in a different country and you have 50 different states. How do you manage all those logistics from starting a firm from nothing and building it up to where you are now?
Sure. So I would say, once me and the client have made a connection, it's not more difficult that I'm in Cleveland. Even my clients here in Cleveland, we go through the same process, we go through the same systems. We use, tools like today, just talking via video, and we get things done. I think what makes it really difficult is how does that client in California know that Nataly Mualem exists? I'm not showing up on their Google Maps, right? When they're
Mhm.
searching immigration attorney, I'm not showing up because I'm located in Cleveland. So the challenge for me really was building credibility. and really making sure that somebody who's hearing my name for the first or second time knows that I'm somebody that they can trust. They're not going to see a billboard of me driving down the highway, like they might with a personal injury attorney. So how do I build that credibility for somebody that is not in my neighborhood, that doesn't like physically interact with me, was the more of a challenge. Once we make a connection, honestly, the nice part about having clients from Cleveland is we have things in common. There's, reference points and things like that that, we share.
Yeah.
But other than that, it has not been a huge inhibitor. It's just getting up to that point of, that person feels I'm credible enough to even give me a call or talk to me. Because, like again, I'm not an attorney that they're going to see on a billboard or see on the local news or see, really in
Yeah.
their Google results most of the times. If they're just searching attorney near me, that I'm not going to show up for them. So I think that's the biggest challenge, and we've done a few creative things, I think, to overcome that. But really, that remains, a challenge, but we're working towards that.
Sure. No, that's definitely a bigger challenge that most businesses have is getting out of that world of obscurity, right? How do I let people know I exist? How do I let people know how good I am at what I do? So when you have this broad spectrum of clients that you can go to from different geographies, how is it that you built that credibility? I'm asking this not as a rhetorical question, but I want you to kind of pat yourself on the back. Obviously, Natalie, you've done a great job. I want you to do that. But I want people to understand that building credibility is hard to do if you go about it a wrong way. But if you do it the right way, you can get a lot of people to kind of get into your corner. And being from Cleveland and having a client in Arkansas or a client in Montana, I don't know, it's not an easy thing to do. But how do you get that credibility across those different geographic lines?
Sure. So what I decided to do, I was like, there's no way for me to suddenly gain a huge share of the market, right? To all of a sudden appear on the scene. And there's people that have been doing this, and most of them are agencies. And funny enough, I don't think they do a great job for the most part. There's some law firms out there that do this that do a great job, but some agencies that personally I'm not a fan of their work. So I was like, there's no way for me to suddenly come up and introduce myself to every single person. Plus, there's the limitations of legal marketing and what we can and cannot do, who we can say, soliciting somebody that's represented already. So what I decided to do is like, I'm not going to introduce myself to the clients. I'm going to introduce myself to who the clients listen to as voices of authority. So that's exactly what I did. When I started my firm and about 2 years ago now, I decided to talk to all the landscaping coaches. I talked to all the business builders, all the people with, podcasts in the industries. I talked to the people that had publications that focused on the industries that I want to represent, mostly landscaping and construction. And I gained their trust because we had good, fulfilling, long conversations about how I could help their clients, how, some of the issues that they were hearing about could be combated in a different way when it comes to the visa programs. We talked strategy, we talked, really basically, I was able to, I think, gain their trust by showing them that I was knowledgeable enough, and the problems that they were hearing, or the issues that were coming up. And let's say it was a business coach and somebody's coming up to them and saying, oh my gosh, this year was going to be terrible. We got into group F, we're not going to get our visas. And people who have, participated in the H-2B program know that it's a lottery and you're placed, on these different groups. And based on your group, you have a less chance of getting into the lottery. So when, they would come to me and tell me, my client so and so had this issue, and I was able to maybe tell them, well, this is a different way to look at it, or this is what could have been done differently, or give them some information, then they felt confident enough to introduce
Mhm.
me to their audience. So I was able to leverage the network of other people who had built a network over the years. I did not try to build it from scratch, and I think that's what's really helped. And I also was I think, meticulous in trying to understand the industries that I represented. So, kind of going back and looking big picture, like where are the markets that need me the most? Where are the voices of authority within that industry? Who is someone that is looked at as a figure that's trustworthy in that? And then reaching out to those people. And I think that's really helped, build
Absolutely.
credibility quickly.
Yeah, you've made a lot of different comments here, and they're all fantastic. And I just want to make sure that the audience understands when we're talking about getting out of obscurity and into the world of credibility, as you've just explained it, it's, finding the voices of authority. I 100% agree with that. You have to find a way to gain people's trust by letting them get to know who you are, what you're capable of, what your experiences are. So you can get that know, like, and trust factor onto you. Like you want that aura about you. And it comes from the experiences and the results you provide somebody when they first get a chance to meet you, right? So it might not be you're working with somebody, but they might have a question and you provide some value in a response or information that they're looking for. And over time, short or long, all depends on how fast somebody wants to move, right? You get a chance to build credibility because you've been there, you've done that in a way that you're providing them value. And when they need you, you're the first person that comes to mind because you're always there, you're always ready, you have information they can rely on. And that's something that I think as a business owner, it doesn't matter if you're in law or landscaping or whatever, it's having that credibility of being there when people need you. Even when they don't need you, you're still there because you can help, you can provide information. So that's a really good piece is building that credibility. You made a comment I want to make. I just want to go back to it because I think this is going to help you and me understand a little bit, but it's going to allow you to separate yourself from the other people in the market. You said there's agencies out there and there's other law firms out there, and the law firms do a nice job, but the agencies don't necessarily do a good job in your eyes. And I'm curious, what do you think separates you from those agencies when you can say, I don't think agencies do as good of a job? What is it that makes that difference?
Sure. I think it's two things. One of them is focusing more on the services than the strategy. So, there's a lot of push from my clients who have come to me from those agencies. I've seen their paperwork, seen the way that things are handled, and it's almost like everything is the idea of it is like there's buy-on options. We want you to add on this service or add on this service or add on this service. So they're selling you a series of services with law firms and I won't say all law firms, but many of them that, do this well. Um, and it's funny because H2B is like a very niche group of people that
Yeah.
actually, within law, we're a very like unique niche group. But the firms that do it well, and there's some that I will confidently, refer cases to sometimes if I'm above capacity. But others I'm like, I don't I don't, know enough about their work to do that. But generally what I'm saying is, the idea with law firms is our mindset is not selling you the service of why don't we add this onto your service, or we can get you a recruited worker for this much, or you know what I mean. It's not a
Hmm.
sales strategy. It's more of a strategy of how do we build a program that actually works for you. It focuses on legal compliance, which I think a lot of the agencies miss because they're not legal experts, so they miss issues when it comes to a problem becoming an employment law issue 3, 4 years down the road.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, they're very conservative in the filings. For example, they'll only tell clients to file for certain things because they're easy and they're reliable and they know they're going to win. And it leaves a lot of strategy on the table because they're afraid of getting government pushback. There's some things like we get called notices of deficiency or request for evidence where the government's basically saying, you haven't quite convinced us yet. We don't know for sure that you're going to qualify for this. We want more information. And that gray area is where I think attorneys thrive. That's what we're trained to do. We're trained to get out of the gray. And a lot of the agencies won't really deal with that. So clients are are left feeling like the program's not enough, there's not much we can do, I'm not benefiting enough. And it's because if you're only going to stick to the white, obviously avoid the black, the untouchable kind of area, like the things that you shouldn't do. But if you're afraid to get in the gray zone because you're not a legal expert and you don't know how to respond to notices of deficiency and you're not trained on that, then you're leaving a lot of strategy on the
Mhm.
table. So really it's the idea of like, no, it's not a sales gimmick, and then also building the strategy behind it. It requires, I think it requires legal skills, not just, a processor.
Well, I love the idea what you just explained, and thank you for going down that road with us because I want the audience to understand. One, you have two very interesting points that you can make to separate yourself from others in the marketplace. And when you are good, you want to have a value proposition that people can recognize so they understand that's the person I want to work with. And
Mhm.
all I'm listening to, you say this, and I wrote down, okay, when you have an opportunity to do amazing, you should take it. And instead of living in the white and the black, find the gray where you can actually find some amazing things because that's where your expertise lies. So I like the idea of when you have an opportunity to do amazing, you should take it. So I appreciate that. That's really good. As you're building this, you've been in business for a while, you're doing pretty well. What is the one lesson, Nataly, that you think a brand new business owner would need to hear and learn it before they actually experience that lesson? What is something that you think would really draw somebody in?
I honestly think the biggest lesson I learned going through the process, and I think something that helped me tremendously, is no opportunity is too small. Don't feel like, certain things are beneath you. Don't feel like I'm not going to talk to that person. Their business is too small. What they're bringing in is not worth my time. I don't believe in that. I believe that every person deserves a conversation.
Mhm.
Everybody deserves a chance. And you never know what door is going to be open if you're open-minded and open to people and willing to share information and talk about, what you do and what you do well. I think it will open up a lot more doors than if you're very, I've talked to some marketing people and they're always like, ideal client avatar, ideal client. I'm like, everybody is an ideal client. Maybe they're not the person that's going to hire and retain me, but having that exposure is never a bad thing. Having exposure to
Right.
people that are willing to listen and, obviously, within purviews that they're like good people, that's not going to harm you ever. It's not a waste of time to get that exposure regardless of who you're speaking to.
I can appreciate that. Very good points. And one of the things that I go back to is no opportunity too small. Again, if you have the opportunity to do amazing,
Mhm.
take it because there's a really good opportunity for you to learn something new, right? If you get a chance to get exposure for something that you're good at so other people can see it. And you never know who you get connected to, right? That one client could find four or five other, maybe 10 other clients that they can say, you know what, you should talk to Nataly. She's really good and she helped me out. That's better than putting a billboard up. That's better than anything you can get because a testimonial from somebody who's been through your experience and they want to tell others, that's amazing, right? Because when people have a bad experience, they'll tell 10 people. If they have a really amazing experience, they might tell three. So
Yeah.
how hard is it to get an amazing story out there? Right. So when you do a lot of really good, amazing things, you have much more opportunity to be told or have people tell people how good you are. So I really love those lessons or that lesson. Thank you, Nataly, for sharing that because it's really good. Um, you think this is easy to run a law firm. Tell me why it's not.
Well, I think there's a lot of moving parts. You have to have good staff, you have to have good systems, you have to have an influx of clients coming in consistently, and the legal and ethical obligations as well. So I think all of those pieces together make it difficult. I find it very enjoyable. It's something that I absolutely love, but I would not say that it's easy, especially if you don't take the responsibility lightly of handling people's very sensitive information and
Yeah.
handling the trust that they have in you to get results and outcomes.
Okay. Really good thing there. And I just wrote down, I wrote down passion or love for what you do and what you do for a living have to come hand in hand, right? If you don't like what you're doing, why do you keep doing it? right? And if you're good at it and you like it, oh my gosh, you should continue doing as much as you can. And I like what you said. There's an obligation. If I can do it and I'm good at it and there's somebody that needs it, why would I limit myself? I should actually help as many people as I can. So I like the obligation piece. Not that, people should be out there thinking, what job or what career, or what business can I create that I'm obligated to do? No, right? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about finding a passion or something that you are interested in doing, you like to do, then you have an obligation to yourself and your clients to do the best work possible. So you can keep doing it. That's a different twist on the word obligation in my mind, right? I'm obligated to pay my mortgage. I'm obligated to pay my rent, whatever it is. But I'm also obligated to do a really good job because that's who I am deep inside. I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing for the right people. So I like the opportunity to throw in an obligation. What do you think?
No, I believe so too. And I think, people are putting their trust in you. They're picking you as their practitioner. So you better do the best you can, or, stop doing it at that point for something like law, especially. It's not something you can dabble in people's lives in like that.
100%. And then what I find interesting is, okay, you have an obligation to do good work. Okay, let's just leave that as a blanket statement. It's a good one. But that obligation is now it has different tiers to it. Obligation to your clients, so they get what they're looking for because they just paid you to do this for them. An obligation to yourself and your business reputation to make sure that when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And I do it in such a way that other people recognize, wow, Natalie's pretty good at this. The obligation is not necessarily just to one entity, it's to multiple things that you're trying to serve. I want to make sure I understand something though, real quick.
Sure.
Your clients are employers and employees.
So they're my clients that actually retain the firm are employers.
Okay.
Employees are not our clients. We actually are we have a sister agency called Workvine that I also direct as well. And Workvine actually finds the employees and we help them place them with the employers if they don't already have employees in mind for this process. So some people will come to me and say, I'm a landscaping company. I have 5 guys. They're amazing. I just want to get them visas, and we'll do that for them. But other times, companies come to me and they'll say, we need 20 workers for a project in Alabama, and I don't know anybody, but I know I need people. Here are the qualifications. Here are the minimum requirements. So we're also locating the workers, and the workers don't pay us anything. We don't charge anything for the workers because that's, not something you're supposed to be doing. So we don't charge anything for the workers. We don't collect any money from them. We're just more helping them if they have the right skill set, be matched to an employer client of ours.
Okay. Okay. I'm glad I clarified that for it, or
Sure,
my own
sure.
mind, because it sounded like I had the idea that there were two different ways you did your business, but it makes sense the way you articulate it. Knowing that you also have a sister firm that you can work with on the employer or employee side to kind of connect those two. I love it. Okay. One last question for you. Well, not a last question. I'm going to ask you, as you've built this firm and you took your experiences, expertise from somewhere else and brought it to this new place, what is the one or two things that you brought into this business that you run for yourself that you didn't bring or didn't take with or bring with you from the former job or former firm you worked at? Is there anything you can speak to that says, yeah, I didn't like that, and this is why I don't do it, or I started this because I saw an opportunity? What is it that you'd say you do differently than what you've ever done before?
Sure. I'd say two things. Systems, there's a big emphasis on systems in our firm. I think, there was the old firm I worked at was great in many ways, but they did not have their systems nailed down, despite existing for a longer time than we have. And basically having those checkpoints and leveraging technology as well. I think that's a big thing, that we built into our systems of, having things automated, having things
Mhm.
ready. at certain times, making sure there's calendaring happening consistently, again, using a lot of technological tools that we did not use before. And, one of the things we've done through those systems is actually create automatic updates to the clients. So I feel like our clients are very, very informed, which was not the case before. So I would say, that's number one. Number two is, and I wouldn't say that the old firm did not have this ever. It did have it in certain cases, but I think something that I really have honed in on is a personalized, tailored experience for every client. So, the clients will talk to me, we'll set up an individualized plan for them. We'll plan not just for the season that we're talking about, but maybe for the next year, sometimes the next 2 years. We'll have very tailored steps, expectations.
Mm.
They leave the consultation, or, maybe sometimes it's a follow-up consultation if needed, but they leave knowing pretty much what to expect. There's rarely a big surprise or a big wrench thrown into the government does a great job at trying to derail us, but a lot of twists and
Okay.
turns and things like that, as you can imagine, I joke, it's not intentional, of course, for our firm, but there are a lot of new legislations and things that happen and policies that pop up, but for the most part, clients leave, I think, kind of finally getting a clear picture of what to expect. And a lot of my clients are clients who have done the H-2B program at other places before. So, they're
Yeah.
like, okay, now I understand why this works and this doesn't, and how the like the even the procedures work. So I think of it more of like educating the client versus making decisions for them. And I always tell them, you're an expert in your business. I'm never going to be the expert in your business, right? So my job is to educate you enough about what you need to do legally or what's possible
Mm.
legally so that you can make decisions for yourself. So like I have clients like asking me, how many workers should I ask for? Or should I file 2 or 3 applications this year? Or should I should I file for spring this year? And I'm like, I can never make that decision for you. I will tell you enough that you can make an informed decision, but in the end, it's absolutely your call. But I have certain tips and tricks to help you along the way for sure. And the funny thing, and this is, a little bit off base, but kind of analogy that I make is the tax code is the tax code. We all have the same tax code, right? But depending on what accountant you go to, you're able to get more
Mm.
out of that code to benefit you. Same thing here. I have the same law that I'm using that everybody else is using. I just like to think that we do a really great job at leveraging that law to get you the best results possible. So
Okay.
we don't
Well,
change the rules, we just change how it's played.
you see the opportunity to do amazing and you take it because you understand that your skill set, your experience, the expertise you bring to the table allows you to live in that gray and be better than somebody who's only in the black or white. And I
Mhm.
appreciate that because honestly, when you're paying for the service of get me the right people or get me employees that I can work with and do it on the up and up, but get me the best people possible,
Exactly.
okay, the person or the firm that lives in the opportunity to do amazing, they're going to give you the better results than somebody that's only black or white. And that's
Exactly.
because they're not confident enough in themselves to go into the gray to pull out what they need to. And I give tons of credit for that, Natalie, because that is a true value proposition. That is what's different that you do that other people may not be comfortable doing. That's why you are successful and they're still living in the white or the black. So I appreciate
Well, I
that.
should have picked a different outfit color, knowing that if we knew that we were going to have this conversation.
But it works though, right? It works. It works totally. We have, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate there's so many good pieces of golden nuggets that I want people to take out of this. So thank you for that. Before we go, I have one final question. I'm going to place you into a time machine and send you back, and you get a chance to meet 18-year-old Natalie.
Okay.
You two sit on a park bench. What's that conversation sound like?
I think at 18 years old, I was very, very, very anxious about what the future holds. I
Mhm.
was, you know, I thought there was only one way to be successful. I thought there was only one way to be happy. And I think what I would tell her would be, take a deep breath. Life will be great in the end. Just let life lead you. Don't always feel like you need to be in control of every situation and every outcome. And I think that's that would have been probably advice that, 18-year-old Natalie would have ignored anyway, but I think
Okay.
I would feel obligated to give it, knowing of how anxious I used to be about just results and being perfect and everything and always constantly feeling like there's only one path that
Yeah.
would lead me to the life I wanted to live.
I love that, the life you've always wanted to live. It's interesting. I used to say this to my father-in-law all the time. Man, the older I get, I realize just how smart you are. Right? It's like we waste so much time and energy chasing things instead of just listening to those that have been there and done that. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah, you're right. I don't need to do that. Yeah, you're right. That's a dumb decision, right? And I shouldn't be so anxious. All I have to do is go enjoy my life and find the things that make me passionate that I can fulfill my own obligation or my own opportunity to help serve others. I think that's a brilliant way to finish up. So thank you, Natalie. This has been great.
So much. It's been a great conversation. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, any final words?
If anybody has any questions, they can reach me. But I
Absolutely.
think other than that, I've really enjoyed talking with you today. And really, I mean, you asked great questions that made me reflect on what I've been doing in a different way. So it's been really nice to be able to sit down and capture the last 2 years in a conversation. I really appreciate that as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and tell your story. And it's interesting, not everybody has the same story, but success finds people that are willing to tell it. So thank you very much for being here. And
Thank you so
I'll see
much.
everybody on the next episode.
Thank you.
Yeah.